Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, please hit that sub button and join the family. We're so close to 30,000 subs, and you can make that possible. Smash that like button if you enjoyed today's stories.
The first time I saw Peter's profile, I thought he looked kind of like the type of guy who owns a record player, but never actually listens to it. You know what I mean. His pictures were a mix of casual but expensive, and I'm just chilling in this art gallery while holding a matcha. His bio said he loved deep conversation, long runs, and honesty above all. I thought that last part was ironic later on, but we'll get to that. We matched on a Thursday, and he messaged me within like 20 minutes. I remember because I was at my friend's place watching some true crime doc and I paused to answer. Our convo moved fast. He was charming in that smooth way where every reply feels like it's been edited 5 times before being sent. Normally I'd be suspicious of that, but he wasn't pushy, and he actually asked questions that weren't stupid like why'd or you of. Our first date was at this tiny wine bar that didn't even have a sign out front. He picked it. I felt like I was stepping into a scene from some indie movie. He was already there when I showed up, reading something on his phone and sipping on this dark red drink I couldn't pronounce. He stood up when I walked in, which I thought was kind of nice in an old school way, and gave me this low-key hug that smelled like cedarwood cologne and money. He talked about his job and branding and how he worked with startups and how he was between cities right now, which sounded like a weird way to say he couldn't commit to a location. But I didn't press. He asked a ton about me, remembered things I said later, and laughed at the dumb stuff I said even when it wasn't funny. He paid for everything without that weird pause where you both pretend to reach for your wallet. It was honestly one of the best first dates I'd been on in a while. Second date, he took me to this random street food pop-up thing in a parking lot behind a brewery. He said he loved places with no frills. He wore a beanie even though it wasn't that cold. I thought it was kind of funny because he definitely didn't need it. That night we stayed out really late just walking and talking. I remember thinking how rare that felt. Like it didn't feel like a performance. He seemed into it. By the fourth date, we'd been texting every day. Voice notes. The whole deal. He sent me a photo of a homemade pasta he'd made, and I joked about how he was clearly trying to wife someone up. That night we ended up at his place. He lived in this loft-style apartment that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. The kind of place where every object felt chosen. There was a plant that I swear was probably older than me. That's the night he told me about the wife. It didn't come up in a dramatic way. He was pouring me a second glass of wine, and he just kind of dropped it in like he was telling me he had a dog or something. He said they were open, and they'd been exploring new forms of love. At first I thought he was joking, like maybe he was trying out a bit, but nope. He said it again, even threw in that they had deep respect for each other's journeys. It took me a second to respond. I remember staring at this abstract painting he had behind the couch and thinking that I missed something. Had I zoned out during a convo where this came up before. He never wore a ring, never mentioned her. When I asked how long they'd been open, he kind of hesitated and then said a few months in that vague way that means he doesn't want to give a real number. That he admitted she wasn't exactly aware he was dating already. I asked if she'd be cool with him seeing me. He paused and did that thing where people exhale through their nose when they're trying to buy time. Then he said, she knows we're in a transitional place, whatever that meant. I remember my stomach dropping. I wasn't even sure what I was supposed to do at that point. The line in my hand suddenly felt too heavy. It was like he pulled the rug out from under everything we'd built over the past couple weeks. I didn't yell or anything. I think I was just stunned. I told him that wasn't something I was okay with, and that he should have told me on day one. He said he didn't want to scare me off before we had a connection. As if lying by omission was better, I grabbed my bag and left without saying much else. The air outside was freezing and I didn't even realize I left my scarf on his kitchen chair. He texted the next day like nothing was wrong. Just that a link to some song he said reminded him of me. I didn't respond. Then 2 days later, he sent this long message about how he didn't want to lose what we had, how we had real chemistry, and that love didn't have to live like a box. I didn't answer that either. A week later, I unmatched him on Hinge. I also ended up blocking him because he started sending these thinking of you voice notes out of nowhere. It was so weird hearing his voice after everything. I couldn't believe how casually he tried to fool me into a lie. And the worst part, A small part of me missed the version of him I thought he was. The one who read my texts right away and brought me hand-rolled sushi on a random Tuesday. Lesson learned, I guess. I don't even look at bios the same anymore. Every time I see honesty is everything, I swipe left immediately. If your wife doesn't know you're in open marriage, then bro, you're just cheating. So this all started when I was stuck in the back of a lift on a Tuesday, late to a work thing I didn't even want to go to. I was half listening to the driver rant about traffic while swiping on Bumble like I was trying to win something. I wasn't even paying attention really. I'd been on like 5 forgettable dates in the last 3 months, and was basically just matching out of boredom at that point. But then I saw Zillion's profile. She had this kind of effortless look, like she just rolled out of bed, but somehow still nailed the vibe. Her pics were mostly travel stuff. Cliffs in Portugal, some blurry sunset from a boat, a market with hanging peppers that I think was in Turkey. The last photo was her sitting on a rooftop, barefoot, holding a glass of something. She looked chill but smart. Her bio said she was based in the city for now, worked in design, and loved poetry and late-night walks. Felt a little cliche, but I liked it. I swiped right. She matched instantly. We started talking that night. She messaged first, said something dumb about how my dog looked like a potato in my second pic, which was fair because he totally does. She was quick, sharp, and kind of sarcastic, which I liked. I was stuck on a client call that went way too long, and the only thing keeping me from punching my laptop was texting her back and forth under the table. She was different from the usual Bumble crowd, not trying too hard, not oversharing, just smooth. Our first meetup was at this tiny ramen spot in Midtown. She was already at the bar when I walked in, wearing this oversized denim jacket and black boots that made her look 10% taller than in her photos. We talked for almost 3 hours about everything. Her job at a small design studio, how she hated corporate logos, her obsession with phones that looked too clean. I was into it. She said she'd only moved to the city recently from the West Coast and was still adjusting. I asked where exactly she moved from, and she laughed and said, "Honestly, I'm all over the place." We went out again that weekend. Art museum, coffee after, then back to her place for drinks. She lived in this weirdly minimalist apartment, like mattress on the floor, no real furniture, just this stack of sketchbooks and a half-broken speaker playing jazz through static. She told me she liked to keep her space flexible, whatever that meant. But I didn't care. I was starting to actually look forward to seeing her. She had this thing where she'd suddenly stop mid-sentence and just stare at you for a second, like she was trying to figure out what kind of person you were underneath the stuff you said. It was intense, but I liked it. About 2 weeks in, I started noticing little weird things. She never added me on social. I didn't think much of it at first. Some people are just private. But then I found her Instagram by accident. I was looking at the tagged photos from this rooftop bar we went to and saw someone had tagged her. Only the name was different. It said Layla. Her profile was public, and yeah, it was definitely her. Same face, same style, in some of the same clothes, but the posts were totally different. In this version of her, she was living LA. Posts from Silver Lake coffee shops, stories tagged at random art shows in Venice Beach, captions about clients in the industry. No mention of New York, no sign of me. Just a whole other existence. I thought maybe it was old, like a past life she hadn't updated. But the posts were recent, like within the last 2 days. And it wasn't just posts. She'd have friends commenting, people making inside jokes that made it clear she wasn't just visiting alone. She was fully part of a scene there. I clicked deeper, checked who she was following, and it hit me. There were people on this account she mentioned in New York too. But under different usernames, like everyone was playing 2 roles and I accidentally walked onto a second stage. I didn't say anything right away. I figured maybe she just didn't want to explain her whole story out front. But it got weirder. One night we were walking through her neighborhood and I brought up a show happening in LA the next weekend. Something I saw on her other account, and she acted like she'd never heard of it. Not like, "Oh yeah, I forgot," but like full confusion. Then she changed the subject fast, asked if I wanted to go to this pop-up poetry reading at a bookstore that didn't even end up existing. After that, I started digging more. Her LinkedIn didn't match what she'd told me. The design studio, couldn't find it. The school she said she went to, found a different graduation name on a Facebook post, Layla again. I found an article from 2 years ago where someone named Leela A was quoted talking about art installations in LA. Same face, same voice when I played the video clip. Different life. The final straw came one afternoon when she asked me to come over to help set up her presentation deck for a client pitch. She handed me her laptop, told me to clean up the layout while she ran out to grab coffee. I opened the file and it was for a brand campaign in the email chain was with someone at a gallery I'd seen tagged on her Instagram under the other name. The signature at the bottom, Layla Aaron, independent visual consultant, /MI. She got back and saw me staring at the screen. She paused, looked at the laptop, then at me, and just goes, "So, you found that?" Like I'd walked in on her eating a secret snack or something. I asked who she actually was, and she just kind of sighed and sat down next to me. She said something about how she doesn't like being defined by a place and how people only see what they expect to. She said she likes having more than one identity because it gives her freedom. Then she said she didn't think I understand. I left that day without saying much. I didn't text. She didn't either. A week later, her New York Bumble account disappeared. Her Instagram was still up, but all the recent posts looked like they were backdated, like she was trying to cover tracks, or maybe she was already on to the next version of herself somewhere else. I still wonder sometimes if that whole thing was some kind of performance art project. Like maybe I was a part of her portfolio, or maybe she really believed in living two lives and never letting the wires cross. I don't even know which version was more real, or if any of it was.
Hey guys, really sorry to interrupt. If you're still listening, then you're enjoying the story so far. And if you are enjoying, then please hit that like button. That's all I ask of you. Thanks so much. Now back to the stories.
Honestly, I wasn't even supposed to be on Tinder that week. I had deleted it like 5 times already and kept reinstalling it every time I got bored, annoyed, or mildly tipsy. That week it was boredom. I was dog sitting for my cousin in this quiet suburb where the most exciting thing happening was a raccoon knocking over trash cans at night. So yeah, Tinder got reinstalled. Again. That's where Liam popped up. His profile looked like it had been curated by someone who watches a lot of moody Netflix dramas. Dark lighting, vinyl records, one blurry photo of him at what looked like a bonfire, and a black and white pic of him playing an old piano. His bio just said old soul, new energy. Whatever that meant. Normally I'd roll my eyes, but I was bored and he looked cute in that quiet guy who wears linen shirts kind of way. So I swiped right. We matched instantly, and he messaged like 2 minutes later with something way too put together to be spontaneous. "You seem like someone who's good at noticing details most people miss." I don't know what that even means, but it worked somehow. We started talking, and he was different from the usual guys on there. He didn't send any weird emojis, didn't ask what I was doing every 5 minutes, just kept the convo kind of floaty and thoughtful. He told me he cooked for fun and meditated every morning. He said phones made people forget to be present, which, okay, sounded a little pretentious, but I figured he was just trying to seem deep. After 3 days of messaging, he invited me over for dinner at his place. Said he didn't believe in restaurant dates because they're too performative and wanted to have a more authentic vibe. I was a little on the fence because meeting a guy at his house for the first date feels like something you'd see in a cautionary YouTube video. But he offered to send his address, said I could call someone to confirm I was safe, and even said he'd leave the door unlocked, so it feels less like a transaction. I don't know why that made sense to me at the time. I guess I just wanted to believe it wasn't sketchy. So I went. He lived in this older craftsman-style house tucked into a wooded street that didn't even have a proper sidewalk. When I pulled up, it was almost too quiet. No music, no street noise, just the sound of birds and one of those creepy wind chimes somewhere in the distance. The door was, like he said, unlocked. I walked in and immediately noticed how neat everything was. Like, weirdly neat. Not just cleaned up for company neat, but everything in its exact place like it's been measured neat. He came around the corner wearing a loose white shirt and barefoot. His place smelled like rosemary and something kind of smoky. He smiled like we'd already met before. I gave him a little wave, and before I could even finish saying hi, he pointed to a wooden bowl on the console table and said, "Phones go there." I kind of laughed thinking he was joking, but he just stood there, watching. He said it was a no-screen zone and that he wanted us to be fully present. I didn't want to be the uptight one, so I reluctantly put my phone in the bowl. He smiled and said, "See? Already better." Dinner was, Actually really good. He made this whole vegan pasta thing with sun-dried tomatoes, and he had a bottle of wine that he said was from a place that doesn't exist anymore. Which again, weird, but okay. We eat at this low table on the floor surrounded by cushions. He had candles everywhere and a bunch of old records playing in the background. It felt like I was in a staged version of someone's Pinterest board. But halfway through dinner, I started noticing things. There were these little black cubes on the top of a bookshelf that looked out of place, like not decorative. I pointed at one and asked what it was, and he said, "Oh, just an ambient sound generator for mood." I didn't buy it. Then I noticed another one near the TV, then another on a shelf near the corner, all pointed toward the center of the room, all the same size. It hit me that they looked like those mini hidden cameras you can buy online, the kind people use for security or weirder stuff. I didn't say anything right away. I kept eating, but my mind was racing. I excused myself to use the bathroom and passed by his office on the way, door half open. I glanced inside and saw a monitor on the desk showing a split screen. One feed of the kitchen, another of the living room. My stomach dropped. I walked back out and straight up asked him, "Hey, why do you have cameras in the living room?" He froze. The smile disappeared instantly. He looked like he wasn't sure how to answer. Then he kind of half laughed and said it was for security reasons. I said, "But we're not being robbed. We're eating dinner. You didn't mention that I was being recorded." That's when his vibe completely changed. He got defensive fast. Said I was reading into things and that everyone's paranoid these days. He said if I didn't trust him, that said more about me than it did about him, which, for the record, is exactly what someone says when you caught them being sketchy. I told him I wasn't comfortable being filmed while eating pasta on a floor pillow, and I wanted my phone back. He handed it to me without a word and just stood there while I grabbed my bag. I walked out without saying goodbye. Didn't even put my shoes on inside, just slipped them on at the door and practically jogged to my car. Later that night, I checked online and found a bunch of reviews for this specific brand of mini cameras. It could record audio too. Some even streamed live. I thought about the conversation, the way he was watching me the whole time, the lack of any personal touches in the house. It didn't feel like someone's home. It felt like a set. I blocked his number, reported his profile. I even posted a warning on a subreddit that night just in case someone else had been through the same thing. I still think about it sometimes, how weirdly polite he was, how carefully he built the illusion of chill and spiritual and off-grid. I wonder if he did it often, if he kept folders on people, if he rewatched the nights. Or maybe it was just out control, some creepy idea of capturing intimacy like it was a project. Whenever it was, I'm never leaving my phone in a wooden bowl again. Okay, so to be honest, I didn't even think I'd get a match that week. I was using Hinge more like a coping mechanism than anything else. It had been a crack couple of days. Boss was being passive-aggressive over emails. I cracked my phone screen for like the third time in 6 months, and my laundry pile was getting that look like it was becoming part of the floor. I was just sitting in bed one night, hoodie on, unshowered, chips balanced on my stomach, swiping left like my life depended on it. Then Leah popped up. Her profile had that vibe like she walked out of a cool documentary. Her pictures weren't like the usual filtered selfies or girls standing in front of wings painted on a wall. She had one where she was holding a vintage camera, another sitting in a bookstore with a half-eaten croissant, and a photo from what looked like a protest, but she was smiling at it like she knew something you didn't. Her bio just said, "I asked a lot of questions. You can mourn," which sounded annoying on paper, but on her, it kind of worked. We matched the same night. She liked one of my answers about my ideal Sunday, which I'd written half as a joke. Something about staying in bed till noon, ordering 2 breakfasts, then reading one of the 5 books I pretend I finished. She said it was honest and gave me points for not listing hiking like every other dude on the app. We started chatting, and she was smooth. Not flirty exactly, just fast. Her replies were sharp, sometimes even a little intense, like she was trying to catch me slipping up. I didn't mind. It was better than getting ghosted after one hey. She asked questions right away. Not the usual boring stuff, but things like what I was most wrong about in my 20s, or what the meanest compliment I've ever gotten was. She made me think harder than I wanted to for a dating app, but I liked the rhythm of it. She said she was a writer, didn't go into too much detail, and that she was working on a few long-form pieces. We decided to meet for coffee first, not dinner, which was fine by me. less pressure. She picked this cafe that was way too hip for me. Plants hanging from the ceiling, baristas who looked like they were judging your soul, and a menu where a latte was $8 but came in a cup smaller than my hand. I walked in and she was already there, laptop out, typing like she was solving a mystery. She stood up when she saw me and smiled like she'd just remembered something funny. She was taller than I expected, wearing a denim jacket over a hoodie and black boots that had definitely been through a lot. She had this energy that made you feel like you had to keep up or you'd miss something. We sat down, ordered drinks, and she closed her laptop but kept it on the table like it was part of her. The conversation started off normal enough. She asked about my job, which I joked was emails and pretending to care about spreadsheets. She laughed. We talked about music, old cartoons, worst first dates. She told me about a guy who tried to bring his mom on their date as a joke, and I told her about a girl who live streamed our dinner without telling me. It felt easy for a while. But then she started asking more personal stuff, like really specific things about my profile. She asked why I said I was 6 feet tall when I looked shorter in my photos, which was kind of a weird thing to say out loud. I told her I was 6 feet, just maybe had bad angles. Then she asked how long I'd been single and why I said I was looking for something real if I'd only had one long relationship in the last 5 years. I asked how she even knew that, and she said it was just a guess. At first, I thought maybe she was just blunt, like one of those people who cuts through small talk. But then she leaned back, sipped her coffee, and just kind of casually said, "Okay, so full disclosure, I'm writing a piece for a magazine. It's about how guys present themselves on dating apps versus how they are in real life. You're one of the people I matched with for it." I froze. I actually laughed a little at first because I thought she was messing with me, but she didn't laugh back. She just tilted her head and waited like she was observing something. She said I was number 4 that week and probably the most normal so far. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there kind of stunned, half holding my coffee and wondering if I was being pranked. She said she wasn't trying to trick anyone and that she was fully planning to let everyone know afterward. She even offered to blur names or let people approve what she wrote. I asked if she'd done this before, and she said no, but that she wanted to write something real, something that captured how people edit themselves on dating apps. She said men were especially good at curating likability. I asked her if anything I said had even been real to her or if she was just mining me for content. She kind of hesitated and said, "That was the whole point. Most people don't even know when they're performing anymore." That pissed me off more than it should have. I told her I didn't sign up to be in someone's article, especially not as a case study. She said I technically did, in a way, by putting myself on a public dating app and playing a role like everyone else. I left after that. Didn't even finish the latte. As I walked out, she called after me and said, "You're actually pretty interesting, if that helps." It didn't. A week later, I got a message from her, not on Hinge, but through my Instagram. Just a short note saying I wouldn't be quoted directly, and that she appreciated the convo. I never replied. I found myself checking random magazines online the next few weeks, just in case her story dropped. I even thought about flipping the whole thing and writing about her, but then I realized that's probably what she wanted. I guess I learned that being honest on dating apps is apparently an open invitation to be dissected now, or maybe that I'm not as clever as I thought. Either way, I'm off Hinge for a while. So the way I met Eddie is honestly kind of dumb. I was on Tinder at like 6 in the morning one Monday because I couldn't sleep and had just spilled coffee all over my bed trying to scroll with one hand. It was too early for anyone normal to be active, so the app was just showing me people I'd probably ignored before. That's when his profile came up. His name was just Eddie, with a photo of him standing in a field holding a film camera, wearing a hoodie and backwards cap. No cheesy quote, no weird gym mirror pic. Just one sentence: "Breakfast is my love language." I thought that was kind of funny, and since I was literally sitting there covered in cold brew, I swiped right out of spite. He messaged me first, said something like, "Wow, you're up early. That's rare on here." And I just sent back, "Caffeine is a prison." From there, it just snowballed. We texted the whole day. It felt chill, not forced. He was witty, but didn't try too hard. Kept the convo light, but interesting. He asked good questions. Sent voice notes that didn't feel cringe. Told me he was an educator, which sounded vague, but I didn't push. I figured he was trying not to make the first convo feel like a LinkedIn post. We agreed to meet later that week, But then came the first weird thing. He said he could only do mornings. Not lunch, not early evening. Morning, like 8:30 a.m. coffee kind of morning. I was like, bro, are we running errands together or going on a date? I made a joke about it, and he said mornings were just his best energy window. He said late nights made him feel foggy and that he liked seeing the city before it fully wakes up. I should have seen that as a flag, but I didn't. I was honestly kind of into the idea of a weird little sunrise date. So that Friday, we met at a cafe that opens at 7. He showed up in this simple black hoodie and joggers, looking like he had just walked out of a nightcap. He brought me a croissant from a different bakery because he said the cafe's pastries were soulless. He sat down, smiled like he'd already been out for hours, and said, "You're actually real." I was half expecting a bot. We talked for about an hour and a half. He was cool, like really cool. Smart, funny, kind of shy in that way that doesn't feel fake. He talked about photography, said he liked capturing mundane stuff that turns interesting when you freeze it. I told him he sounded like he was trying to get featured in some minimalist setting, and he laughed. It felt easy. After that, we kept meeting, always in the mornings, always weekdays. He said weekends were too chaotic and evenings were too loud. We did different things. Early museum openings, morning walks. One time we even met up for pancakes at 6:45 in the morning like psychos. I never felt like he was rushing to leave. But once the clock hit 10:30, he'd always start checking the time. Said he had midday responsibilities. Never said what exactly. One morning I asked flat out if he worked nights, and he laughed and said no, he had a non-traditional schedule. Which was not an answer. Still, I didn't think much of it. I figured he might be freelancing or something. He never talked about his job unless I brought it up, and when he did, it was always vague. Something about mentoring, lesson planning, grading. Then one morning we were walking near this little park, and a kid, like a teenager, passed us on a bike and looked straight at him. Said, "Hey, Mr. Martin," and just kept going. Eddie kind of froze, then smiled and said, "Hey, bud," like he was trying to play it cool. I was like, "Wait, are you a teacher?" He paused and said, "Yeah, high school." Then followed up immediately with, "But not in a normal way. My school is different." I was like, "What does that even mean?" He said it was an alternative program with flexible hours. I didn't really buy it, but again, I let it go. After that, though, things started clicking together in a weird way. I noticed he never stayed past 10:30. Ever. He never let me come to his place. Said it was messy, said he was in between organizing projects. He never posted anything on social, didn't have an Instagram at all. When I tagged him in a story once, he messaged me right away and asked me to delete it, said he was trying to keep his life offline for now. So, yeah, I started getting suspicious. I did what anyone would do. I Googled him. It took me a while because he'd only ever told me his first name and said he didn't use Facebook. But I remembered the kid calling him Mr. Martin, and he once mentioned living in the same neighborhood as this diner we'd gone to, so I combined that with high school teacher and the city we're in. And there he was. Mr. Edward Martin, 9th grade English, full teacher profile on the school's site. Office hours, 8 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. So while I was out here thinking he was just a quirky early riser with a unique schedule, dude was actually dipping out of his teaching job for morning dates and pretending it was part of his aesthetic. I didn't confront him right away. I wanted to see if he'd ever admit it. So the next time we met, I casually asked if he'd ever been a teacher, like in a past life or something. He laughed and said, "Not officially." That was the final flag. I was done. I screenshotted his school's site, the one with his picture and hours, and sent it to him later that night. I didn't even say anything with it. Just sent the screenshot. He didn't reply until the next day. He just said, "It's complicated. I didn't want to involve you in all that." I never responded. Unmatched him. Blocked him everywhere. That was it. Looking back, I honestly don't think he was trying to be some manipulative monster. I think he just got a little thrill out of living this weird double life where he was part high school teacher, part mysterious breakfast boyfriend. Maybe it made his boring job feel more exciting. Either way, I wasn't about to be someone's side plot during second period. So this happened last year when I was on a bit of a dating streak after moving into a new apartment. I just switched neighborhoods and everything felt kind of fresh. New coffee spot in the corner, park across the street, even a neighbor with a pug who barked like it had a cigarette addiction. I figured why not throw dating back into the mix. I re-downloaded Bumble on a random Tuesday night while eating noodles on the floor because my couch hadn't even arrived yet. That's when Nicole showed up. She had one of those profiles that hits you like, all right, this girl's either too good to be true or I'm about to meet someone who actually understands me better than my therapist. Her photos looked like they'd been taken by someone who knew lighting angles, like one at a boat with sunglasses, another at a vineyard laughing like she didn't know a camera was on her. Come on, she knew. And one in front of this mountain view that looked like a screensaver. Her bio said something simple like, not here for pen pals, and listed a few emojis: coffee, airplane, wine glass. I figured she liked to travel, which okay, cool, everyone does. She was listed as 28, worked in consulting, and apparently lived just a couple neighborhoods over. We matched, and within 10 minutes we were messaging. Right away, I could tell she was smooth. Her texts were sharp but casual. Not trying too hard, not overly flirty, just right. She asked about my job, what my favorite weekend plans were, what I was into. She told me she loved exploring small towns, trying local food, and traveling as often as she could squeeze it in. When I asked what kind of consulting she did, she said, it changes depending on the project, which was vague, but I didn't push. I've met enough people in creative fields to know not everyone wants to dive into work talk. We went out the next week. First date was at this little rooftop place downtown. She showed up looking exactly like her photos: big coat, simple makeup, smile like she already knew the place was overpriced. She was cool, like too cool for me probably, but she made me feel like I was keeping up. We talked about traveling, bad date stories, this dumb food trend we both hated. She had this confidence that made me forget she was a complete stranger I just met over an app. After that, we started seeing each other pretty regularly. Once a week at first, then twice, then random texts every day. She always had some new plan or getaway idea. Why not take a weekend trip to the coast? Or there's this wine event in Napa, we should go. I thought it was spontaneous, exciting. I'd never dated someone who could just pack a bag and bounce with 24 hours notice. Thing is, she never wanted to pay. It wasn't blatant, but always framed like, you get the Airbnb, I'll bring the food, or you book the flight, I'll cover everything else once we're there. I didn't think much of it at first. I mean, she stayed over a lot, cooked breakfast more than once, and gave off this I got my life together energy. It didn't feel like I was being used. About 2.5 months in, we'd done 3 weekend trips together. One to the coast, one to a ski town that I booked, and one to this little desert Airbnb she swore was life-changing. She'd never let me see her place, though. Said it was being renovated. She also didn't have any social media except for a private Instagram she never added me to. That should have been a clue, and I figured she was just private. I know people who don't post their lives online. Whatever. Then one night, I was hanging out at my friend Josh's place. We were watching some dumb documentary and scrolling through Bumble at the same time, comparing matches like idiots. He suddenly stops and says, "Hey, isn't this that Nicole girl you're seeing?" I look over and, yeah, it's her. Same face, but with a totally different name. Claire. Different age too. This one said she was 31. Different bio, but the photos were the same. Except now there were a couple extras I hadn't seen before. Her in New York, her at a resort in Mexico. Still her, no doubt. I just sat there staring at it. My stomach kind of dropped. Josh swiped right just to see what would happen, and she matched with him within minutes. I messaged her right then, just a simple, "Hey, can we talk?" She didn't reply. The next day, still nothing. And later that week, she texted saying her aunt had passed away, and she was going to Europe last minute. No joke. Full paragraph, dramatic, lots of emojis. So I did what I probably should have done earlier. I started looking her up. Reverse image search on one of her pics pulled up a profile on a completely different site. Different name, different city. Same face. Found her LinkedIn, also under another name. Turns out she had 3 different Instagram accounts under 3 different versions of herself. Each one showing her in a different location, sometimes tagging guys in posts, sometimes alone. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just dating around, she was running actual scams. Not in a criminal way, but like emotional vacation fraud. Free getaways, nice dinners, gifts, flights, all under the charm of being this mysterious girl who had no time for small talk. I sent her a message saying I knew everything. Screenshots, links, even a picture from one of her other profiles. She never replied, just blocked me. I talked to Josh, and he said he'd already started chatting with her before we figured it out. She had the same routine. Quick flirtation, you seem different. And within 2 days, she was talking about getting out of the city for a few days. The worst part is, I think she actually believed it wasn't wrong. Like maybe in her head it was just smart. Use what you've got. Get what you can. If some guys want to pay for vacations, who cares? I care, apparently. I'd spent almost $900 across those trips. That's a whole month's rent in my old place. All for someone who probably read my text while talking to 3 other dudes about another getaway. After that, I deleted Bumble for a long time. Not because I was heartbroken or anything. Just embarrassed. Mad at myself for being that easy to reel in. I thought I was too careful to fall for something like that. Turns out, all it takes is a good smile and a fake mountain view. So this one started because I was bored in line at Trader Joe's. The guy ahead of me was arguing with the cashier over whether a frozen meal counted as 2 separate items or a combo, and I was losing brain cells by the second. I opened Hinge just to kill time. You know how it goes. Scroll, scroll, nope, scroll, maybe. Then I saw Dylan. Now, Dylan had that look that makes you stop for a second. Like, not model hot or anything, but one of those guys who looks like he knows how to fix a bike and probably makes a mean grilled cheese. His first photo was him in a field with a dog. Second was him standing next to a record player like he'd just finished a deep conversation about jazz. And then the third one was him at a street food stall smiling like he didn't even know the camera was there, which of course he did. His profile said he was low-key funny, worked in real estate, and was looking for someone who values transparency. Anyway, we matched, and he messaged pretty quickly. Said something about how TJ's was underrated for their frozen hash browns, which was weirdly specific and made me laugh out loud in the parking lot. We started texting and I'll give it to him. He was smooth. Knew how to hold a convo, didn't ask anything creepy, and threw in just enough personal details to seem real but still mysterious. First date happened that weekend. We met at a place that served craft tacos, which I think is code for overpriced but decent. He showed up wearing a black crew neck, black jeans, and those sneakers that are clearly expensive but don't look like it. He smelled like cedar and something herbal I couldn't name. Conversation flowed. He talked about moving to the city a year ago, how he was working with a friend on flipping houses, and how he was tired of the scene. I told him I felt the same. Just wanted something real, someone chill, someone to split a pizza with without a whole performance. By the end of the night, I thought he was cool. Maybe not fireworks all exciting, but solid. Like, this could go somewhere solid. Then came date 2. He texted asking if I wanted to kick it at his place, which was fine by me. I figured we'd order food, watch something dumb, and maybe talk about music or travel or whatever people talk about when they're trying to keep it casual but cute. He sent me his address, and I showed up around 7 with a 6-pack and 0 expectations. Now, his place was nice, but weird nice, like clearly staged nice. It looked like one of those units they show in apartment ads that nobody actually lives in. The couch didn't have a dent, the candles were unburned, and there was a stack of books on the coffee table that looked like they'd never been opened. The only thing that felt real was this half-dead plant in the corner that he said was part of the aesthetic. We sat down, started eating takeout, and things were chill at first. Then the vibe shifted. He started talking about how hard it is to maintain a lifestyle in this city, how rent is a scam, and how people underestimate the stress of independent living. I thought it was just a rant. I even jumped in with a few complaints about rising prices and how one of my friends pays $2,200 for a studio the size of a closet. Then he says, super casually, I've actually been thinking of a different model. I ask what he means, and he leans back on the couch, looking at me like he's about to pitch an invention on Shark Tank. He goes, so like if 2 people are vibing right, and one of them's in a tough spot financially, and the other wants to build something long-term, why not make an arrangement that benefits both? I blinked, thought maybe I misheard him. He continues, I'm not saying like move in tomorrow or anything, but say I'm trying to stabilize and you're already in a good place income-wise. Like, what if instead of just seeing where this goes, we had an understanding? You help with some stuff, bills, rent, and I fully commit to us. I just stared at him. No joke. For a solid 5 seconds, I didn't say a word. I was trying to figure out if this was some weird social experiment or if I'd missed a chapter in the conversation where this made sense. So I asked, are you saying you want me to pay your rent in exchange for a relationship? He didn't even flinch, just shrugged and said, "It's not about the money, it's about intention. Like, I'm ready to build something, but I need the support. Emotional, financial, practical. Relationships are partnerships, right?" I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't even process it yet. Like, yeah, relationships are partnerships, but bro, we're on the second date. I don't even know your middle name. I haven't seen you use a fork enough times to know how you eat pasta. And you're out here suggesting some rent-a-boyfriend business plan. I asked if he'd done this before. He said, not exactly, but mentioned that his last situation involved a girl who helped him stay afloat during a rough patch. When I asked how long they dated, he said 4 months. At that point, I stood up and grabbed my coat. He acted confused, said he thought we were on the same page, and I said, no, we're not even in the same book, man. I left before he could launch into part two, whatever pitch he had stored in his brain. I got a follow-up text the next morning saying I misunderstood the opportunity and that he was only trying to build with someone who saw the bigger picture. I didn't respond. He unmatched me on Hinge like 2 hours later. Looking back, the weirdest part isn't that he asked. It's how normal he made it sound. Like, the tone was so calm, so casual, like he'd actually thought this out in a PowerPoint somewhere and genuinely believed this was a romantic arrangement. I needed a break after getting propositioned like I was about to finance a Netflix original called Love and Lease. I met Amanda after I'd been off Tinder for a couple months and decided to give it another shot during one of those late night can't sleep scrolling sessions. You know the kind, lights off, blanket half on, one headphone and playing some dumb YouTube video, and your thumb just swiping like it's part of your nervous system now. I wasn't even serious about it, just bored and hoping to see someone who didn't say they loved adventures and wine. Amanda showed up maybe 5 swipes in. Her profile wasn't anything crazy. No deep quotes or fake travel influencer energy. Just a couple selfies, one pic at a food truck, a group photo that wasn't too groupy. Her bio said, "Let's get drinks and pretend we're cooler than we are." I liked that. Felt chill. Relatable. She was cute, had this half smile in her photos that looked like she was trying not to laugh at something. I swiped right, and boom, match. She messaged me first. Just said, "What's your favorite kind of fry?" No hello, no intro, just straight into potatoes. I replied curly, obviously, and she wrote back, wrong, but acceptable. From there, we were off. She had this dry sense of humor that worked, didn't take things too seriously, and somehow kept every message short but sharp. I liked it. We chatted on and off for maybe 4 or 5 days. She wasn't super flirty, but the conversation felt effortless. She mentioned she'd just moved neighborhoods and was relearning the best spots to eat, and I offered to help her figure it out. I suggested a dinner spot I liked, not too fancy, but decent enough to make it a proper first date. She said yes, said she was always down to eat, and we picked a Friday night. So the night comes and I get to the restaurant a bit early. Nothing crazy, mid-range Italian place, candles on the table, a little loud but not obnoxious. She walked in wearing this oversized blazer, sneakers, and had her hair up in that way that looks like it took 5 minutes, but probably took 30. She smiled when she saw me, gave this little wave, and sat down like we were just two coworkers catching up. Things started off fine. We ordered drinks, shared a burrata starter. She talked about moving, said her landlord was weird, and her neighbors smoked on the balcony right below hers, which made her room smell like burnt raisins. We laughed about dumb roommate stories, bad haircut phases, the usual stuff. She asked me what I did, and I gave her the short version about working in software stuff for a health startup. When I asked what she did, she said freelance content and kind of waved it off, then started talking about how she missed her old neighborhood's sushi spot. All good so far. Chill energy. Funny, relaxed. We ordered pasta. She got carbonara, I got something with shrimp. Then maybe halfway through the meal, she kind of leaned back, took a sip of wine, and goes, "So, full honesty time." I said sure, not really thinking anything of it. She smiled and said, "I don't actually date guys for relationships. I date for dinner." I kind of laughed thinking she was joking, but she just nodded at my plate and said, "You'd be surprised how much you can save if you plan it right." Still trying to catch up, I asked what she meant exactly. She pulled out her phone, tapped around for a second, and then turned the screen to show me an actual spreadsheet. No joke. It was color-coded, labeled by month. Each row had the guy's name, just first names, restaurant, what she ordered, what he paid, and a little notes column with stuff like decent combo, too handsy, or talked about crypto. I was speechless. I stared at it, thinking maybe this was some kind of prank or maybe she was a performance artist or something, but she just kept talking like it was the most normal thing ever. She said she started doing it about a year ago, partly for fun, partly to make going out less expensive. She said it started as a joke with her roommate, go on a date once or twice a week and let guys pick the place, and then it just became her routine. She said she wasn't trying to scam anyone. In her words, I give good company. They get a night out, I get dinner. Everyone wins. I didn't know how to respond without sounding either super judgmental or like I was trying too hard to be cool about it. So I asked, so, do you actually like any of these guys? She shrugged and said, some are fine, but I'm not looking for a boyfriend. I just like eating out and I love cooking for one. And honestly, a lot of guys treat dates like auditions anyway, so I figured why not get fed in the process. She said it saved her over $1,600 last year. That's what the total in the spreadsheet said at the bottom. $1,600 from pasta, tacos, sushi, brunches, and a few fancy date nights she listed as gift dinner when guys insisted on multiple courses. At that point, the waiter came back and asked if we wanted dessert. She looked at me and said, only if you're paying, with a laugh, but the kind of laugh that felt more like a test than a joke. I said I was good. Asked for the check. Paid, obviously. I wasn't about to argue or make a scene, but I was quiet the rest of the walkout. She didn't seem awkward at all. Just said, thanks, this place was great. Added to the spreadsheet, and then gave me a little salute before walking off toward the subway. I didn't text her after that. She didn't text me either. She probably moved on to the next reservation. I told a couple friends about it and got mixed reactions. Some thought it was kind of genius. Others thought it was messed up. I just felt weird about it, like it was part of someone else's budget plan and didn't even know it. Anyway, I still go to that restaurant sometimes. Ordered the same shrimp dish once and had this weird flashback to her spreadsheet and that color-coded breakdown of people she'd shared Rosada with. Still blows my mind she just showed it, like it was a playlist or something. Okay, let me set the scene first. I was fresh off a breakup with someone who still had a Minecraft username and referred to his apartment as the dojo. So yeah, I wasn't looking for anything super deep, just someone chill. Someone normal. I'd re-downloaded Bumble after 2 months of pretending I was done with dating apps. You know that fake phase where you convince yourself it's time to work on your inner self and journal more? Yeah, that lasted maybe 10 days. Then I was back, thumbs flying, judging people off mirror selfies and whether they used the word vibes in a sentence. Kyle's profile stood out in a weird way because it was extremely clean. Too clean, honestly. He had 5 pictures, all different settings, all clear, like he actually asked a friend to take them instead of just cropping himself out of a group shot from a wedding. One photo was him hiking, one was him holding a coffee cup in front of some co-working space, and one was him in a beanie sitting on a rooftop, laptop open, like he was plotting the next global shift. His bio said, building a future of financial freedom. Let's talk travel, tech, and tacos. I rolled my eyes at financial freedom, but swiped right anyway because he had nice teeth and wasn't holding a fish. He messaged fast within an hour, and he wasn't boring. No, hey, or wide. He asked when I thought about passive income and if I liked hot sauce. Strange combo, but I played along. I said something about how I liked the idea of passive income but had commitment issues with spreadsheets, and he sent back a laughing emoji followed by, I think you'd vibe with my crew. I figured he was just referring to his friend group or something. No red flags yet. We texted all day. He kept it casual, a little flirty but respectful. Said he worked in blockchain strategy, which sounded just vague enough to not ask questions about. So we made plans for that Friday. He picked a rooftop spot downtown that I'd actually been wanting to try, and I thought, hey, maybe this guy is legit. Dresses well, spells everything out, seems interested. Can't be worse than my last date who spent 40 minutes telling me about his fantasy football team. I get to the rooftop and Kyle's already there. Sitting with a drink, relaxed, wearing a black jacket and this watch that looked expensive but not flashy. He stood up when I walked in and hugged me like we already knew each other. Real confident. We sit down, start talking, I'll be real, he was good. He knew how to make eye contact, didn't interrupt, laughed at all the right times. He asked about my job, remembered something I'd said in the chat about working late, even brought up a show I'd mentioned. Everything felt intentional. We order food, and somewhere between bites of tacos and me rambling about a podcast I liked, he switches gears. He goes, "You ever think about what your life could look like in 5 years if you didn't have to clock in and out?" At first, I thought he was being philosophical. Like maybe this was a smooth way of asking about goals or values or something. So I gave him a half-joking answer about wanting to live somewhere warm and not get emails after 6. He smiled like he'd been waiting for that opening. Then it began. He said something like, "So this might sound crazy, but I'm part of this digital community that's helping people get there." He pulls out his phone and starts showing me this Telegram group filled with screenshots of cryptographs, testimonials, usernames I didn't recognize. He says it's not just about investing. It's about mindset shifts and learning to see the system for what it really is. I thought he was joking at first, like maybe it was a bit, a way to poke fun at all the crypto bro cliches. But nope, he was dead serious. He kept going, telling me about how he joined this group 6 months ago, and now he's on track to be fully decentralized by next year. I had no clue what that meant. He told me about these calls they do on Sundays where they unlock new paths to wealth and how they're building something real outside the traditional economy. I asked what the actual thing was, like when am I joining? What do I have to pay? He smiled and said, "There's no fee to start, just a shift in your mindset." Then he said I'd need to download a specific wallet app and set up an account through a referral link. That's my new. I asked straight up if he was trying to get me into a pyramid scheme. He looked offended. Said, "This isn't a scheme, it's a movement," which is what every guy says before asking you to buy into some coin that dies a month later. I said, "So you're recruiting on dating apps?" He goes, "Not everyone gets it, and that's okay. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm just offering the door." At this point, I couldn't tell if I was in a Black Mirror episode or just getting soft-sold into becoming someone's downline. He said a couple of his best teammates were people he met through dates. Sometimes chemistry turns into collaboration. I nearly spit out my drink. I finished my food because I was hungry, and I paid my half because I wasn't about to owe Kyle anything, not even $22 worth of tacos. When we stood up, he asked if I wanted to come to a group meetup they were having the next night. I told him I had plans to wash my hair and never replied to his follow-up text. A few days later, I saw him post a story on some random crypto-themed Instagram account he clearly ran under a different name. Something about making passive income while others chase paychecks. He was sitting on that same rooftop, probably with another girl, starting the whole thing over again. I don't think Kyle was evil or anything. I think he genuinely believed in what he was doing. But if your first instinct on a date is to pitch someone a tokenized future, maybe reevaluate the vibe. I deleted Bumble again after that, not permanently, but long enough to forget what a crypto pitch sounds like. Alright, so I wasn't even supposed to be on Hinge that week. I'd just gotten back from visiting my parents for a long weekend. I was already drowning in work, hadn't done laundry in days, and some on the fridge had nothing in it except half a lemon and a can of seltzer from who knows when. I was tired, stressed, and for whatever reason decided that was the perfect time to start swiping again. Maybe I thought a little flirting would balance out the 43 unread emails waiting for me. Anyway, that's when I saw Jessica's profile, and she didn't even look like someone I usually match with. She had this calm, put-together vibe, like the type of person who actually uses a calendar and owns more than 2 mugs. Her pictures were normal, but in a way that made me stop. One was of her standing next to a bunch of bookshelves, another a museum, and one where she's drinking tea in what looked like a cabin. Her bio said something about being into old movies and the feeling of clean sheets after a long day. I don't know, it just felt solid, like she was grounded or something, not trying to be flashy. I swiped right and matched with her the next day. She messaged me first, which was a surprise. Just said, "You look like you give strong Sunday morning playlist energy." I still don't know what that means, but I went with it. We started talking, and she was super easy to chat with. Smart, funny, never too much. She used full sentences, made references I actually got, and didn't ask anything weird like, "So what are you looking for on here?" in the first 10 minutes. Over the next few days, the conversation turned into this kind of low-key, everyday rhythm. She'd send a photo of her breakfast, and I'd send back something dumb like, "That toast looks suspiciously confident." She told me she worked in education, but didn't go too deep. Said she taught at a college nearby, that she loved it, and that it kept her busy during the school year. We made plans to meet the following Thursday. Coffee shop in my neighborhood, easy and casual. When she walked in, she looked just like her pictures, but also somehow better. Not in that done-up way, more like she didn't have to try. She wore jeans, a white sweater, and had a tote bag that said something in French I couldn't read. She smiled like she'd seen me before, which I didn't think about too much at the time. The date was great. One of those where time doesn't do what it's supposed to. We sat outside even though it was a little cold. Talked about podcasts, our most useless talents, how weird it is that people still say YOLO unironically. She had this way of making everything feel relaxed but still interesting. Like she wasn't trying to impress anyone, just be real. I walked her to the train after, and we both said we wanted to do it again. She even texted me that night. I haven't smiled that much on a weekday in a while. I felt the same. We saw each other 3 more times after that. Dinner, walk through the park, another coffee run. Every time felt better. Like it was building towards something without any pressure. I didn't think I was falling for her or anything, but I definitely wanted to keep seeing her. Then came the twist. One night I was at my parents' place again. My brother was home from college for the weekend. He's a few years younger than me, studying English at a small liberal arts school about 30 minutes away. We were just hanging out, watching some dumb action movie, when I mentioned I'd been seeing someone new. He asked to see a photo, so I showed him one of the 2 of us from our last date. Nothing dramatic, just a smile in front of a bookstore. He stared at the photo for way too long. I thought maybe he was trying to recognize the place, but then he goes, "Dude, that's Professor Jensen." I laughed, thought he was messing with me, but he wasn't laughing. He zoomed in and nodded. "That's 100% her. She teaches my 20th century lit class. She's super strict about essays and doesn't let us use laptops during lectures." I thought maybe it was just a lookalike, but then I remembered her name was Jessica Jensen. My stomach dropped. I didn't say anything right away. I just sat there like I'd forgotten how to use my body. My brother kept asking me how I met her, if she knew who I was, if it was a prank or something. I told him I met her on Hinge. He just kept saying, "That's so weird, man, like she's your age, maybe older, right?" The next day, I texted her. I didn't go in hard or confrontational. Just asked if she knew my last name. She said, "Of course I saw it in your profile." Then I asked if she knew I had a younger brother named Evan. She waited almost a full hour to reply. Then she sent, "Yes, I realized it after our second date. I wasn't sure how to bring it up." I didn't even know how to respond, like she had known and just kept going with it. She said she thought it wouldn't matter if we were both adults, and that she hadn't done anything wrong. Which I guess technically she hadn't, but it still felt off, like it was part of some hidden story she wasn't telling. She said she'd never interacted with my brother outside of class, and that she'd been careful not to mix anything up. But come on, she knew. She figured it out and decided not to say anything. Just kept going like nothing had changed. Meanwhile, I was out your planning gate 4, and my little brother was turning in essays to the woman I was texting good morning to every day. I told her I needed some space. She said she understood. I haven't seen her since. Every now and then I'll be walking by a bookstore or hear someone talking about literature, and it weirdly reminds me of her. Not in a romantic way, just in that, how the hell did I end up in that situation kind of way. My brother still has her as a professor. He said she hasn't brought anything up and treats him like every other student. I guess that's good. Always ask what kind of teacher someone is before getting attached, or at least their full name, because you never know. Jessica from Hinge might just be grading your brother's term paper. I used to think dating apps were just a weird little digital game. Like you swipe, you match, you talk for a week, maybe meet once, and then forget about each other forever. No big deal. Sometimes it's just a boost to your ego. Other times it's just a way to kill time when you're eating cereal at midnight. I didn't take it seriously, not until Damon. So I matched with Damon on this app that's kind of a niche one. Not one of the giant ones like Tinder or Hinge. This one was more artsy, more curated. You had to answer questions with voice notes, upload video intros, even list out your weird quirks. It felt more personal. I liked that. Damon's profile caught my eye right away. He looked like someone I'd be friends with. Not super polished, not trying too hard. His answers were sarcastic in the same way mine were. We had the same exact favorite movie, same favorite band, same irrational hatred for plastic utensils. It was weirdly aligned. But the weird thing wasn't that we matched, it was how quickly we clicked, like freakishly fast. Within a day, I was telling him stuff I usually reserve for people I'd known for years. He just got me. He would mention things I liked before I even said them. When I told him my favorite kind of coffee, he already knew it, like down to the exact order. I laughed it off, said I must have mentioned it on my profile somewhere. He said maybe he just guessed. Then there were little things. Subtle ones. He mentioned how he used to go to this park, one I always walk my dog in. Not the main one in the city that everyone knows, but this quiet, tucked away one behind a grocery store. I asked him how he found it. He said he stumbled on it one day while visiting a friend. I didn't think much of it at the time. Then he said something about my dog. Not just like, what kind of dog do you have? But he referred to her by name. Said he loved corgis named Junie because they always look smug. I paused when I read that message. I'd never told him my dog's name. I checked my profile. Nothing there. Not in the photos. Not in the captions. Nothing on social media either, unless he really dug. When I asked him about it, he played it off again. Said maybe I mentioned it early on and forgot. Or maybe he saw a tag in one of my pictures and it stuck. And I believed him, or at least tried to. Because I liked him. I didn't want to think anything was weird. Things got stranger after that. I'd noticed he knew a lot of oddly specific stuff about me. He mentioned my high school by name once. Just dropped it into conversation like it was nothing. I hadn't told him where I went to high school. My hometown was small and not remotely close to where I live now. I brushed that one off too, though it stuck in my head. And then came the night that pulled the thread loose. We were texting about music, and I sent him this screenshot of an old playlist I'd made in college. Super random, kind of embarrassing stuff, like 2014 indie bands and acoustic covers. He replied that he already knew those songs because I used to post them on my Tumblr. My heart kind of dropped for a second, because that Tumblr was locked. Not private, but it didn't have my name or photo on it. It was something I ran anonymously, mostly read blogs, sometimes song lyrics, maybe some journal-like entries from years ago. The kind of blog you assume no one ever finds unless you give them the link. I hadn't posted on it in like 6 years. I asked him how he found it. He said he just had a feeling it was mine, that it sounded like me. And I didn't know what to say to that, because there's no way someone just stumbles on a random blog from 2017 and magically knows it's yours. That's not how the internet works. That night I couldn't sleep. My brain was racing. I started thinking about everything he'd ever said, every time he guessed something right, every place he said he'd been that I'd also been to. I pulled up our entire chat history. I went over it line by line. And then I did something I probably should have done weeks ago. I reverse image searched his profile pictures. Nothing came up on the first one. But the second, the one where he's wearing a black hoodie and standing in front of a mural, traced back to an Instagram account that had been inactive for 3 years. Different name, but same face. I dug more. I found at least 3 other profiles on different platforms, all with slight variations, all clearly him, all inactive now. Some had usernames I recognized. Not because I'd seen them recently, but because I'd seen them years ago. Comments on my old photos. Likes on tweets I made in 2019. Reblogs on my Tumblr from accounts I didn't remember. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a random match. This wasn't someone who found me and thought we clicked. This was someone who had been watching me online for years, following me under different names, tracking my music tastes, my habits, even my favorite coffee shop. He hadn't stumbled into my life. He'd been circling it. Quietly, patiently, just waiting for the right angle to slide in. I blocked him, deleted the app, locked down every account I could think of, even changed my dog walking schedule. I tried to convince myself I was overreacting, that maybe he was just weirdly good at remembering things, but I know better now. A few weeks later, I got a message on a different app. Not a dating one, just a random messaging app I barely use. It was a new account. No profile photo. Just one message. Hey, it's me. You probably don't remember me, but we talked once. Just wanted to say I'm glad you're doing okay. I still listen to that playlist sometimes. That's all it said. I deleted the app, changed my number. But sometimes I still wonder if I really cut him off, or if he's just waiting again. Quiet. Patient. Watching. If I had to pick the weirdest moment in the past year, it wouldn't be the time my car got towed, or when I walked into the wrong lecture and sat through half of it without realizing. It would be the time I went home with a girl from a dating app and found out the house we were in wasn't hers. It still doesn't feel totally real when I think about it. So I met Lily on this app that's mostly used by people in their mid-20s who claim they're too cool for Tinder. You have to answer weird questions and post voice notes, so it feels more casual but also more personal, which I guess makes it easier to fake being interesting. Anyway, we matched after like 2 weeks of me not even opening the app. She was funny, quick with responses, not over the top flirty, which I liked. She had this weird mix of chill and chaotic energy. One day she'd be talking about conspiracy theories. The next she'd send me photos of her cooking like 5-course meals. I'm not gonna lie, I was into it. After a couple dates, coffee, then dinner, then drinks, we ended up back at her place. I wasn't expecting anything. We talked about how both of us liked taking things slow, but she invited me over and I wasn't gonna say no. The house was really nice, like too nice. Not in a flashy way, just warm. Everything matched. The lighting was soft. There were candles everywhere, the kind that look expensive and smell like rain or whatever. The couch had one of those throw blankets that feel like they belong in a movie set. There was a record player that actually worked. She made tea. It felt like something out of a Pinterest board, but lived in. It didn't feel fake. She said she lived alone, worked freelance, sometimes house sat for people. She was vague, but not in a weird way. She just didn't over-explain. She told me the place used to belong to a relative, but they passed, and she sort of ended up with it. I didn't question it. She didn't make it sound dramatic, so I let it be. We stayed up watching old sitcoms, cuddled on the couch, fell asleep in her bed. It was kind of perfect. Next morning, she got up to shower. I was half asleep but kind of nosy, so I just wandered around a bit while waiting for her to come out. I don't snoop, I just look. You know, people's bookshelves, the kind of mugs they own, they're fridge magnets. You learn a lot. First thing that stood out was the hallway. There were these framed photos of a family, parents and 2 kids, maybe 7 and 10 years old. I figured they were relatives or maybe old roommates. One of the photos was clearly taken in the living room. Same couch, same lamp, same everything. Then I passed a shelf with kids' books and a stack of board games. There were also toys in a basket near the corner, one of those rubber giraffes babies chew on, and a bunch of Lego pieces in a bin. That's when it got confusing. She'd never mentioned kids. Not siblings, not babysitting, nothing. And there wasn't even the usual chaos you'd expect in a house with children. No drawings in the fridge, no snack wrappers. The place was spotless. But all the kid stuff was still there like someone had pressed pause. Then I saw the mail. I wasn't digging through it or anything. It was just on the kitchen counter. Half-opened letters, a few packages. Different last name. Not hers. I only noticed because I remembered her mentioning her last name on our second date when she joked about how hard it was to spell. And this one wasn't even close. I thought maybe it was a family member's place, or she was staying there temporarily. I still wasn't panicking, just confused. And then the alarm went off. It wasn't loud like in movies, just a shrill, steady beat from a panel by the door. I was still holding the mug of tea she made me earlier, standing in the middle of the living room in someone else's hoodie. Lily came rushing out of the bathroom, wet hair and everything, a towel barely staying up. She looked more annoyed than scared, which struck me as weird. She went straight to the alarm and punched in a code, but it didn't work. Tried again, still nothing. At that point, I said something like, "Everything okay?" And she didn't answer. She just looked at me, then at the door, then back at the alarm. She finally got it to stop on the 3rd try. Then she said something about the system being old and finicky, how it always does that. But the whole vibe had changed. Her face looked tight, like she was calculating something in her head. That's when it really sank in. This wasn't her house. It wasn't a relative's house either. The framed photos weren't just left up. The toys weren't just left behind. The alarm wasn't going off because it was glitchy. It was going off because someone who wasn't supposed to be there was moving around inside. We didn't talk much after that. She rushed through getting dressed. I said I should probably head out. She didn't argue. I walked out and just kept walking. I didn't even open my phone until I was 3 blocks away. No text from her. No explanation. Later that night, I checked the address on Google. Just typed it in out of curiosity. There was a listing. A family blog, actually. Some suburban mom running a cooking site. Her name matched the one in the mail. There were pictures, her husband, their 2 kids, that same couch, that same rubber giraffe. They were on vacation. Italy, I think. I went down a rabbit hole. Instagram stories from just a week ago showed them at the airport, posing with their luggage. The house wasn't hers. She wasn't house sitting. There was no sign she had permission to be there at all. I never confronted her. I unmatched her on everything. Blocked her number. I've never seen her since, but I still think about it sometimes. How calm she was, how smoothly she pulled it all off, how easy it was to believe her. She walked through someone else's life like she belonged there. And for a minute, I believed she did. Okay, so I'm not the type of person who normally falls for the whole mysterious stranger thing. If someone doesn't have Instagram or at least a dog in their profile, I swipe left like it's a reflex. But Troy was different. He somehow got around all of that. He felt like an exception. We matched on this random dating app I had downloaded out of boredom during a late night scrolling session. It wasn't one of the big apps, more like a niche one trying way too hard to feel genuine. Half the people on there had quotes about forests and books in their bios, and I guess I was in a phase because I thought that was kind of cute. Troy's profile didn't have much. One picture, him sitting outside at a table, wearing this worn-in flannel and smiling like he wasn't trying to smile. His bio just said something about liking silence, and that he wasn't big on phones. That should have been a red flag, but I thought he was just trying to be deep or funny. When we matched, he messaged me almost immediately. No, hey, or what are you doing? But something weirdly thoughtful. He asked me what the sky looked like where I was. It caught me off guard, but I responded. From there, the combo was different. We didn't talk like strangers. He asked questions like he already knew me a little or like he was trying to catch up rather than meet someone new. He didn't want to text much. Said he liked talking in person better. I thought that was kind of refreshing. Every guy I talked to recently wanted to text for 2 weeks and then ghost. Troy said texting drained him. He'd only reply with short stuff, meeting times, places, simple stuff. But when we met up, he was completely normal. Actually, more than normal. Charming, laid back, funny in a dry kind of way. We met 3 times in total. First time was coffee. Second time was a walk around this random trail he suggested. I Googled it to make sure it was real, don't worry. And the third time we got pizza and sat in his car talking for hours. It was weird how fast it felt comfortable. I didn't know much about him, but it didn't feel off yet. He told me he didn't use social media, didn't believe in giving all your data to corporations, claimed he worked odd jobs, landscaping, tech cleanup, random gigs like that. Said he didn't have a steady address, but couch surfed or stayed with friends. I figured maybe he was just kind of off the grid. I know how that sounds now, but in the moment, it didn't feel creepy. It felt like he was just unplugged, which honestly seemed kind of nice. Like maybe he was just tired of everything being online all the time. Aren't we all? Then one day, he just stopped showing up. We were supposed to grab food. I texted to confirm and got nothing back. Hours passed. I called, straight to voicemail. Then the next day came and still nothing. I waited a few days thinking maybe something happened or he just needed space. Then I started trying to figure out how to contact him, except I couldn't. I realized I didn't even know his last name. No socials to check. No mutual friends. I looked back at our conversations and it hit me. Everything he told me had been vague. No real places, no last names, no photos with other people. Nothing to actually prove he existed. I had one photo from the app, and that was it. I tried to search the image. Nothing. Reverse image search gave me nothing. I called the number he used, and it was disconnected 2 days later. Gone, like poof, just erased. A week passed. I was weirded out, but I figured maybe he was just some flaky guy with a flair for drama. Then things got worse. It started small, weird charges on my credit card. First one was like $2.97 from some sketchy online store I had never heard of. Then another for $5.12. I figured it was some auto-renew thing I forgot to cancel. But then one showed up for $63, then $91. I froze the card. Called the bank. It said it looked like someone was testing the card number. Small amounts at first, then bigger ones. The kind of thing people do when they're trying to figure out what they can get away with. They asked if I'd lost my card. I hadn't. I changed all my passwords, nuked my saved cards on every site, Locked down everything. It messed with my head. The timing was too close. I kept thinking back to Troy, wondering how he could have gotten my info. I'd never gave him my card, never paid for anything around him. But I've used my phone around him a lot, and I guess I wasn't super careful. Then my phone started ringing. It was always the same time, around 3 a.m. first night. I thought it was just a glitch. The call came from a random number. No voicemail. I Googled it. No results. Next night, different number. Same thing. Every time I answered, it was just dead silence. No breathing, no background noise, nothing. Like someone was just holding the phone waiting. It kept happening. 3 nights in a row, I started turning my phone off at night. I changed my number. I even got a new SIM. The calls stopped for a while. But one night, I forgot to turn my phone off, and it rang again, same time, 3-4 a.m. The contact name wasn't a number anymore. It just said T. I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. I reported it. The police couldn't do anything. My provider said the calls were coming from a spoofed number. Nothing traceable. I tried to let it go. Tried to convince myself it was just some random scammer or a coincidence. But here's the part that still messes me up. A few weeks ago, I was cleaning out old stuff on my laptop and found a folder of downloads I didn't remember saving. Just 6 files, all with weird names, just a mess of numbers and letters. One of them was a photo. I opened it. It was me, sitting at that trail from behind a tree. It started out super normal, like painfully normal. I met Walter on a dating app I don't even remember downloading. You know how sometimes you're just in bed, bored, and your brain convinces you maybe this time it'll be different. Yeah, it was one of those nights. I had like 2 conversations going, both boring. And then Walter messaged me something really dumb, but funny about how people who list walks under hobbies are just trying to sound less chaotic than they actually are. I laughed. We talked. It escalated fast. Not in a creepy way, just fast. Good energy. He was one of those people who actually seemed interested in what I said. Remembered little details, followed up on stuff I mentioned. He called me out in a good way when I was being too self-deprecating, but not in that fake therapist tone some people use. First date was a park and tacos. Second was a bookstore. Third, we just stayed in, made spaghetti, and watched YouTube videos on a projector he had jankily set up in his living room. It felt weirdly soft and safe. He had a job in marketing or something vaguely creative sounding. Said he freelanced so his schedule was flexible. He had a cat, lived alone. His apartment wasn't super clean, but it had plants and mugs that didn't match and a broken lamp that he swore worked if you angle it right. Basically, nothing screamed serial killer or chaotic liar. After about a month, it started to feel like we were heading towards something more. We weren't putting labels on it, but I wasn't seeing anyone else, and he kind of hinted he wasn't either. I wasn't in a rush, but I let myself feel a little hopeful, which was rare for me. Anyway, it happened on a Sunday afternoon. We were at his place, and he stepped out to grab us coffee from the spot down the street because he said their cold brew was a spiritual thing. His words, not mine. He left his phone on the couch next to me. I wasn't planning to touch it, but it lit up, just a notification. No name, just the top of a shared note. You know how iPhones will preview the title? The title said, Tracking, Sort Plus Priority, which was already weird. Like, what are you even sorting? But whatever, I tapped it. I honestly thought it was gonna be like some grocery list or a dumb idea for a vlog post. It wasn't. It was a table, like an actual table inside a shared note with names, full names. There were at least 12 people listed. Maybe more. I didn't scroll all the way down right away because I just froze. Next to each name was a bunch of notes. Paragraphs. Each person had a little blurb describing them. Some were longer than others. It looked like someone was building character profiles, but worse. There were things like, Emily, emotionally needy but good for short term, avoids confrontation, doesn't ask too many questions. Danielle, super busy with school, only available Thursday plus Sat, won't sleep over. Jess, smart, gets suspicious easily, avoids saying too much. And then my name. My whole name. Next to it. Good backup. Still deciding. Keeps boundaries but seems flexible. Doesn't ask about my past. Probably assumes I'm not seeing other people. Wait to test. I stared at it for way too long. I wasn't even mad at first, just confused. I kept reading. Every person had a full breakdown. Strengths, flaws, availability, emotional states. How much they'd opened up, what they didn't like talking about. One girl's section said, might snap if she finds out, careful. Another said, parents live nearby, probably won't invite me home anytime soon. There was one that said, keeps receipts, don't lie. Who read stuff like that? There was no warmth in it, no actual human affection, just data points. I felt like I'd been tricked into an interview process I didn't apply for. He came back like 10 minutes later, holding 2 iced coffees and smiling like everything was fine. I pretended nothing happened. I took the coffee, thanked him, sat through the rest of the afternoon like I was still present. But I was barely listening. I felt gross. Later that night, I went home and opened my notes app just to stare at how boring and normal mine looked. Grocery lists, a quote I liked, my Wi-Fi password. Meanwhile, he was running a literal catalog of people he was dating like it was a strategy game. I checked again a few days later. The note was gone. Not just from my phone, from his too. It had been unshared or deleted or something, like he knew. Maybe he saw the preview open when he came back. Maybe he checked the logs. I'll never know. I never confronted him. I just coasted. I stopped responding. Blocked his number. Unmatched him. I felt dumb even trying to explain it to friends because it didn't sound real, like who actually keeps a ranked note on people they're dating. But I know I saw. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't seen it. If I'd gone another month thinking I was falling for someone who already decided I was just plan B, just a maybe. A backup. Something on standby in case one of the others didn't work out. And I guess the part that still messes with me is I wouldn't have known. He was nice, thoughtful. He said the right things, remembered details, made me spaghetti, played dumb playlists he made just for us. But it was just a row in a table. And he was still deciding. You know that feeling when something's off, but it's like off in a way that you can't explain yet. Like your brain's trying to do the math and the numbers look fine, but you know something's not right. That's what it felt like with Sarah. Not at first, but looking back, it was there. We only had 2 dates. 1 coffee, 1 late night walk. That's it. We didn't kiss, didn't do anything dramatic, just talked. But she had that kind of energy where you feel like you've known them forever, even when it's literally been 5 days. She was cool. Funny in a dry way. Said she was new to the area. We had the same dumb opinions about movie villains being more interesting than heroes. She wore big jackets even when it wasn't cold. I remember thinking she was kind of hard to read, but I liked that. Then a week after our second date, I got a call. Not a text, a call. That already felt weird because no one our age calls unless something's actually wrong. It was her. She sounded panicked. Not crying, but close. Said her car broke down on some back road just outside of town. She was trying to get to her cousin's birthday or something and was running late, and now her phone battery was low, that her wallet was gone, and her roadside assistance wouldn't help without an ID. I remember standing in my kitchen, still in socks, thinking this was a lot for someone I barely knew. But also, what was I supposed to do? Let her sit there in the dark on some road by herself. I asked if she needed a ride. She said yes. Sounded super grateful. I asked for location. She dropped a pin. It wasn't that far. Maybe 20 minutes out. So I drove out there. And yeah, I found her exactly where she said. Hood popped, car dead, standing in the shoulder light from my headlights like a scene from a weird dream. She hugged me the second I got out and kept saying thank you, thank you, thank you, like she was on the verge of tears but trying to be chill about it. She said her wallet was gone, like literally gone. Maybe she left it on the roof or dropped it. She didn't know. She said she felt dumb even calling me, but didn't know who else to reach out to. She asked if I could spot her a bit of money so she could get her car towed. She showed me a screenshot of her Venmo account that was supposedly frozen until her bank cleared some fraud thing. It all looked halfway legit. And again, I didn't want to be that guy, the one who leaves someone stranded because I'm paranoid. I gave her $120, not in cash, just through an app. She said she'd pay me back next day. I dropped her at what she said was her cousin's place. She gave me a weird side hug and said she'd make it up to me. And then she was gone. Not like vanished into the woods gone. Just gone from my life. Stopped replying. First few messages were delivered but left on read. Then nothing. After 2 days, I messaged again. Nothing. Checked her dating app profile. Gone. Like deleted. Tried to call. Straight to voicemail. Her Instagram was private and I hadn't followed her, so I couldn't see anything there either. It felt insane. Like, what even was that? So I did what every confused person does when things stop making sense. I Googled. At first, I was just searching Sarah, then her last name, and car broke down scam half as a joke. But nothing useful came up. Until I found this thread. Not even a big one, just some forgotten corner of Reddit where someone had asked if anyone had ever been scammed by someone from a dating app. I was scrolling through for like 30 minutes when I saw a comment. Guy said he matched with someone named Emily who said she was new in town, had a cool vibe, wore big jackets. Then went on 2 dates. Then she called him late one night, car broken down, wallet stolen, needed money. He drove out, helped her, and then never heard from her again. No response. Vanished. Different name, but same story. That's when it started spiraling. I found another post. Different subreddit. Someone said a girl named Alexa told him her Venmo got locked after fraud charges. She needed gas money. Same voice, same calm but stressed tone, same exact phrasing. Didn't know who else to call, so embarrassed to ask. We'll pay you back tomorrow. Same amount too, always around $100. I went down a hole, multiple posts, some from last year, some newer, different cities, all with just enough changes to feel like separate stories. But when you line them up, it's her. It's always her. She just keeps changing names, swapping profiles, different hair colors and different photos, but the same voice, same weird way of speaking, same giant jackets. And none of us could ever prove anything. She never took the money in person. It was always digital, apps that don't care if the username is fake, no receipts, no screenshots with her face. It's like she's running a play that's been tested and polished and works just enough to keep doing it. I reported the account. Not that it mattered. The app already said the profile was deactivated. Probably on to her next one. I didn't tell my friends for a while because I felt dumb. Who gives money to someone they just met twice? But when I finally did tell a few people, one of them said they knew someone who had had a similar thing happen. Different girl. Same setup. Same vanishing act. And it's not about the money. Honestly, I would have given her more if it had been real. It's the feeling that someone crawled into your life just long enough to learn exactly how to ask for something and make it believable. She knew how to talk, how to time it, how to cry just enough without crying. It was like watching someone perform empathy. I keep thinking about that last moment when I dropped her off, and she turned around like she wanted to say something else but didn't. Just gave that little sigh hug and disappeared into the building. Part of me wonders if she ever feels weird about it. Like if there's ever a second where she hesitates before making the call, or if it's just muscle memory now. I've still got the receipt from the money app. It's labeled Tao. But all it says under the recipient now is account not found. Okay, so this is gonna sound fake at first, but I swear this really happened. It's one of those things that starts out kind of funny in a that's weird way, and then slowly goes downhill until it's just uncomfortable and kind of terrifying. I don't even know how to explain it without sounding dramatic, whatever. Here it goes. So I've been using this dating app for a few months, nothing serious. Just casual matches, some decent combos, 1 or 2 awkward coffee dates, the usual. My profile is pretty chill, just a few normal pics, stuff from hikes, my dog, and one where I'm eating noodles which weirdly got the most likes. My bio was dry and short, something like trying not to die alone, bonus points if you like mangoes. Anyway, I was sitting on my couch one night, scrolling the app with zero expectations when I saw myself. Not like a photo someone took of me. Literally, it was me. Same name, same city, same age, same exact dog in one of the photos, except not quite. The photos were mine, yeah, but they were slightly edited. Warmer tones, more contrast. One was cropped tighter to make it look like I was showing more skin. The captions were different. The bio said something weird like open-minded and down for anything, messaging with something bold. Same name, same stats, the whole vibe was off. Like someone took my profile and added a darker filter, both literally and emotionally. At first, I thought it was some glitch. Maybe the app duplicated something. I screenshotted it and tried to report it. I get messaged it like a dumbass. Just said, what is this? But obviously no response. 2 hours later, my profile was gone. Logged out, locked out, account deleted. I checked my email. Nothing. No warning, no flag, just poof. I tried to log back in, and it said my account was under review for violating guidelines. Meanwhile, the fake me was still up and live, swiping and chatting with people pretending to be me. That's when it got weird. The next morning, I woke up to texts from 2 friends asking what I meant by my last message. One of them sent me a screenshot. It was from Instagram. A DM from me, except it wasn't my account. Slightly different handle, same profile pic. The message was something flirty and weird, like aggressively out of character. Kind of unhinged. I checked my actual Instagram. Still there, still fine. But when I searched the username they screenshotted, it existed. Someone had copied everything. All my photos, even old captions, same highlights, same bio format. Just changed the username slightly and started messaging people I knew. I reported that one too. Instagram said they'd review it. A few hours later, my account was disabled for impersonation. At that point, I felt like I was losing it. I started going through all my apps and platforms. Twitter, Facebook, even LinkedIn. Nothing at first, but then I noticed little things. One of my Spotify playlists had been renamed. My TikTok bio was different, just by one emoji, but I didn't put it there. My profile pic on Venmo changed to a photo I hadn't used in over a year. Someone had gotten into stuff, or copied it, or both. And people kept messaging me, saying, "Lol, what was that about last night?" Or, "Hey, just checking in. Are you okay?" One guy who I hadn't talked to since high school sent me a screenshot of a message from me saying I had feelings for him. I'd never sent that. I didn't even think that. I tried to get ahead of it. I posted stories saying I was being impersonated, changed my passwords, locked everything down, turned on 2-factor. But it was too late. People were already confused. One of my old matches sent me a really long paragraph asking why I was playing games and why I was messaging them from burner accounts. I wasn't. I hadn't even used the app since that night. I tried reaching out to the dating app support team again, and finally got a real reply. They said my account had been flagged for coordinated deceptive behavior. I tried to explain what was happening, told them someone else was using my info, but they just said they'd look into it. That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard anything back. In the meantime, the fake me was still out there. New profiles kept popping up, not just one, but multiple. Some under my real name, some with slight changes. One had my middle name as a username. Another used a nickname only people from middle school used. It was like whoever was doing this knew me, not just from online, like knew me. The photos weren't even just the ones I had in my profiles. They were old ones, stuff I deleted, stuff that was only on my phone. That's when I started thinking maybe they had access to my cloud. Or maybe my phone got mirrored somehow. I don't even know what's possible anymore. I wiped my phone just in case. Started using a VPN. Downloaded one of those sketchy apps that tells you if your email is in a leak. It was. At that point, it wasn't just about dating apps. It was everything. I couldn't even prove who I was anymore. One of my old coworkers got a message from me on WhatsApp. She called me confused, asking if I was hacked. I wasn't even on WhatsApp. Every time I reported something, my real account would get flagged instead. Like the clone was ahead of me every step. Like they were planting things just before I could react. I tried deleting everything and starting fresh. Made new accounts, new emails, new usernames. It worked for a few days. Then I saw another version of me pop up again. This time on a completely different app I hadn't even used yet. That's when I stopped trying to fix it. I don't know if it's one person or a group or some creepy bot farm testing how far they can push identity theft. I don't know what they want. They're not stealing money. They're not asking for anything. Just pretending to be me in ways that ruin my actual life. I still get messages now and then, mostly from people I barely know, asking if I meant to send them something. And every time my stomach just drops. Because I didn't, and I can't prove that I didn't. It's not just catfishing. It's like someone replaced me one piece at a time until I was a fake one. I wasn't gonna even go out with Grave, honestly. He wasn't really my type. Like, he was attractive in that kind of bland way. Gym selfies, clean haircut, That one picture of him holding a baby that probably wasn't his. But the conversation was solid, not creepy, not boring. So I said yes to a drink. The first date was chill, nothing crazy. Just drinks and fries and kind of laughing at the other awkward couples around us. He was funny, but not trying too hard. Talked about music like he actually listened to full albums. He walked me to my car and said something sweet, and I went home thinking, okay, maybe he's a decent guy. The second date was better. We talked longer. I found myself thinking about him a little too much the next day. Third date, he invited me to his place. I knew what that meant. I wasn't looking for anything deep. I just didn't get weird vibes from him. His place was too clean. Like, not just neat, but organized to the point where it felt staged. Pillows fluffed, not a single dish in the sink. Even the rug was vacuum lined perfect. But whatever. I wasn't trying to move in, I just noticed it. He poured wine, put on a movie that we didn't finish, and the night went where it went. And yeah, everything felt normal. He was respectful, attentive. Said he'd text me later. He did. After that, we kind of drifted. He stopped texting as much. I didn't really chase him. It just felt like one of those things that was over before it really started. No hard feelings. I was a little annoyed, but mostly just moved on. I unmatched him, deleted the convo. That was that. Then, 3 weeks later, I got an email. Not a regular one. It went to my spam folder. The subject line was just my first name, nothing else. I almost didn't open it, but my curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a short message with a link. No context. Just a link and one sentence. Thought you should see this. I stared at it for a while before clicking. My stomach was already tight, and I didn't know why yet. The video loaded fast. It was dark at first, then it came into focus. His bedroom, that night, I could see myself. Sitting on the edge of the bed, laughing. Saying something I didn't remember saying. And then doing things I definitely didn't remember being filmed doing. I felt like my brain stopped working. I didn't even finish watching. I just closed my laptop and sat there frozen. My face was hot. My hands were cold. My head kept trying to catch up with what I just saw. He filmed me, without saying anything. No heads up. No joke by camera. Nothing. I paced around my room for like 20 minutes, just going back and forth trying to figure out what to do. I thought about texting him, but I didn't even have his number anymore. I thought about calling the police, but I didn't know what I was even reporting. I thought maybe it was fake, like AI or something, but I knew what I was wearing that night. I remembered where I put my bag. It was real. I went back to the email. This time I saw the rest of it. After the link, there was a second message underneath the original one. It was shorter. All it said was, "Let's meet again, just us. No excuses." I didn't reply. The next day, I got another email. Same sender. This time, it said something like, "You can choose, me or your friend seeing this." That was when panic set in for real. I didn't know how they got my email. I didn't use it for the dating app. I never gave it to Greg. I didn't even know his last name. I had no proof it was him, besides that it was his room. His voice in the background. The way he said my name casually, like he was talking to a friend. Like this was normal. I locked everything down. Changed every password. Deleted every app. I made my Instagram private. Turned off message requests. Even pulled my name off some old school directories and websites I used to be on. I felt like I was shrinking my whole life just to make it harder for him to find ways in. But it was too late. 2 days later, one of my friends messaged me. She said I'd emailed her something weird. A broken link, nothing else. She hadn't clicked it, but it freaked her out. I checked my sent folder. Nothing there. But someone had spoofed my name and email and was sending people stuff pretending to be me. I knew what the link was. And I had no way of stopping it. The thing is, I didn't even know what he wanted. I don't think it was money. I don't think it was just out of control, either. I think he liked the game of it. Pushing boundaries, seeing what he could get away with. I think meeting again was just a way to keep the leash tight. I never responded. I deleted every email that came through after that. Blocked the sender, flagged them, whatever. I called my internet provider. I called my bank. I sat up every night for a week thinking someone was gonna knock on my window or hack my camera or send another message to someone else pretending to be me. Nothing else came. Not yet, anyway. I don't know if he gave up or just moved on to someone else. I don't know how many other videos he has. I don't know if he's done this before or if I was the first. I keep telling myself it's over, But sometimes when I get an unknown number calling me late at night, my heart still races. It's been 4 months. I haven't told anyone in my family. Only 2 of my friends know. I made a fake profile once just to check if he was still on the app, but I couldn't find him. Either he changed his name or got banned. Or maybe he never left. I can't prove anything. I never saw the camera. I don't even know what device he used. But I know what I saw. And he made sure I know what he's capable of. I never thought a simple dating app swipe could lead me to one of the scariest weekends of my life. But yeah, that's exactly what happened after I matched with Jake. Jake was different from the usual people I met online. Right from the start, he was intense, like too intense maybe, but in a way that felt real. He wasn't just tossing out surface level stuff. He talked about his feelings and past in a way that pulled me in. It was kind of rare to find someone who was so open about heavy stuff without it feeling like a drama fest. I guess that's why I kept seeing him. We went on a few dates, and each time I thought I was finally connecting with someone who actually wanted to be real. On our third date, things got kind of deep. He told me about a rough childhood, family problems, stuff he'd never shared before. Not in a dramatic oversharing way, but like he trusted me enough to let me in. Then, out of nowhere, he suggested we get away for a weekend to a cabin he knew, somewhere remote. He said it would be a chance to escape, to just be away from everything for a bit. It felt impulsive, but the way he asked wasn't pushy or weird. Honestly, part of me wanted to say no, but I also wanted to see where this could go. So I said yes. The night before we were supposed to leave, I packed like I was going camping. Phone charger, snacks, some extra clothes. I asked him about the place, and he said it was up in the mountains, no signal, no distractions. Perfect to unwind. He sent me the address early morning, and I took a train out of the city to meet him there. When I arrived, it was already late afternoon. The cabin looked smaller than I imagined, surrounded by dense trees, isolated in every direction. I looked around for a car, but saw none. Jake was standing outside waiting for me, and honestly, seeing him in person was a relief. He smiled like nothing was off. But something felt off. We went inside, and that's when I noticed there was another person there. A man sitting in a chair by the fireplace. Someone I didn't know. I scanned the room trying to find some explanation. Jake introduced him as a friend who had been staying there for a while, someone who was helping him out with some stuff. It seemed normal enough, but the guy's eyes were cold. He didn't say much, just nodded. I tried to shake off the weird vibe and followed Jake around the cabin. The place was old but clean, with a rustic charm. The windows showed nothing but trees and sky. I checked my phone, no signal. I wasn't shocked since Jake had warned me, but it was still strange not being able to call anyone, check a map, or even look up the weather. That night, we sat around a small fire pit outside, and Jake talked more about his past, his struggles with trust, his battles with loneliness. The man stayed inside, mostly quiet. When I suggested maybe we could call it an early night, Jake just smiled and said the night was young. At some point, I decided to explore the cabin a bit more on my own. I opened the front door to step out, but it wouldn't budge. At first, I thought maybe the door was just stuck or swollen from humidity, but then I saw the lock was engaged, locked from the outside. My heart skipped. I knocked on the door, told Jake through the window that I couldn't get out. He just shrugged and said something about wanting to keep us safe, to avoid any outside interruptions. The man inside was watching, expression unreadable. That's when it really hit me. I wasn't just visiting for a weekend getaway. I was trapped. I tried my phone again. No bars. I checked all windows, locked too. I wasn't sure how long they planned to keep me there. Jake kept talking about needing to work through some things together, about how sometimes people have to face their pasts head on away from the noise. I nodded, but wasn't sure if he meant it in a healthy way or if it was just a cover for something else. The man stayed in the corner, eyes flicking between me and Jake. It felt like they were watching my every move, waiting for me to crack or say the wrong thing. I spent that night wide awake, the silence heavy and suffocating. The cabin creaked, the fire outside crackled, and the dark trees seemed to lean closer to the windows. I kept trying the door every hour, hoping for a miracle, but it was useless. Morning came, and instead of relief, it brought a heavier weight. Jake acted like nothing was wrong. He made coffee, handed me a cup, and said we could take a hike. The man packed a bag and said he was leaving, heading back to the nearest town. Relief washed over me as the door finally unlocked from the outside, and the man stepped out. But Jake didn't come with him. He stayed behind, staring at me like he wanted to say something important but didn't. I grabbed my phone, sprinted down the path toward the road, praying for any sign of signal. The trees thinned, and suddenly there was a glimmer of reception. I called a cab, and I didn't look back. It wasn't until I was back in the city, sitting in my apartment, that I started piecing everything together. Jake's intensity, his quick bonding, the remote cabin with no way out, and that silent man who seemed like a guard more than a friend. I tried to reach out to him afterward, but his number was disconnected. His profile vanished from the app, and every mutual friend I tried to find had no clue who I was talking about. I still don't know what I walked into exactly. If that weekend was some twisted way of control, or if Jake was just messed up in ways I couldn't fix. But I do know one thing. Sometimes the people who seem the most open, the most eager to share their souls, are hiding doors you never want to open. And when those doors lock behind you, there's no easy way out. So here's the thing. I was totally hooked on this person I met online. Not like the usual, hey, wanna grab coffee stuff. We talked every single day for months. Texts, video calls, even late night phone chats. They lived in another city, super busy with work and life, but somehow we just clicked. Like real connection vibes that you don't get with just anyone. It felt legit. We weren't in the same place, and yeah, that was a bummer, but we kept planning that they'd come visit me soon. They promised. Said it was just a matter of time, that things were crazy, but they were serious about finally meeting in person. I kept counting down the days, checking my phone for messages, making sure I was always ready to drop everything for that moment. I even told a few friends about them, like this person who was slowly becoming a big deal in my life. Then one day, just like that, it all stopped. No texts, no calls, no video chats. The silence hit harder than I expected. At first, I thought maybe something was wrong. Maybe they were swamped or had a family emergency. I tried reaching out a bunch of times, but the messages went unread. The online status on the app disappeared. I was left staring at a blank screen wondering what the hell happened. Weeks turned into months. I told myself they just got caught up or maybe needed space. But deep down, I knew something was off. It wasn't just a ghosting moment. It felt like a total vanish. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. I felt crushed, like all those months of sharing jokes, secrets, hopes, gone like they never happened. I couldn't even block or report because, well, the account was still there, but inactive. It was like I was trapped in this weird limbo, stuck with memories of someone who didn't even exist. I tried to move on, got back into other things, dated casually, but something about that connection haunted me. I kept wondering who they really were. What was real? Was any of it real? Fast forward a year, I'd get this random message from a friend. They're sending me a link to some news article about a person arrested for running this massive scam. The story said the person used deepfake videos and voice changers to trick people all over the country into thinking they were someone else. The article talked about victims who thought they were dating real people, building trust over months, only to be left with empty wallets and broken hearts. I clicked the link, expecting some blurry mugshot or a sketchy photo, but then I froze. The face in the picture, it was the person I thought I knew. Every detail matched. Same eyes, smile, even that little scar on the cheek I always covered with a filter in video calls. I read through the article again, trying to make sense of it. The police had caught this person after dozens of complaints. People reported being emotionally manipulated, sending money, personal info, even gifts, all based on a fake identity that had been crafted with technology that could mimic real faces and voices perfectly. Suddenly, everything clicked. But long-distance busy schedule, the vague plans to meet the disappearing act, it wasn't just costing. It was a setup, complete lie wrapped in a digital mask. I felt like my brain short-circuited. How could I have been so blind? How did I not notice the tiny things that didn't add up? The weird delays in video calls, the little glitches that I'd brushed off as bad connections, the way their voice sometimes sounded a bit off. All that stuff made sense now. I dug deeper online and found forums where other people shared their stories. Some lost thousands of dollars. Others just lost their trust in anyone online. Everyone talked about the same pattern. Someone charming and seemingly perfect, spinning tales about their lives, their troubles, promising to meet, asking for help, and then vanishing without a trace. What scared me most was realizing how advanced this scam was. This wasn't some random catfish with a few stolen pics. This was a carefully built illusion, powered by technology that could fool not just the eyes, but the heart. I went back to our old chats, trying to find any clues. I'd noticed how sometimes their face in video calls looked just a little too smooth, like a filter that never quite went away. I remembered how their voice sometimes echoed weirdly, like it was being altered. I tried to warn others, but how do you prove something like that? The app I used didn't do anything when I reported suspicious activity. It felt like I was shouting into a void. Honestly, I'm still figuring out how to process it. The thing that messes with me the most isn't just that I was tricked. It's that the person I thought I was connecting with, the one I cared about, was never real. It was a digital ghost designed to pull me in and then disappear. I guess the craziest part is how easy it is to get caught up in something like that. You want to believe in people. You want to think that somewhere out there there's someone who gets you. But sometimes that hope makes you the perfect target. I never thought I'd end up in a situation like this. You hear stories about people with shady pasts or mysterious exes, but I always figured that kind of stuff happened to someone else, not me. But then I met Casey on a dating app, and everything spiraled into something I couldn't have predicted. Right from the start, Casey seemed a little off, not in a scary or aggressive way, just paranoid. They told me early on that they'd had a stalker before, like a real nightmare stalker who followed them for months, showed up at their work, made threats. Casey said it was a traumatic experience, one that left them hyper aware and cautious. I wasn't sure if it was true or just something to explain away why they were so jumpy, but I tried to be understanding. People have pasts, right? Casey talked a lot about how they double checked their locks, always watched the shadows, and kept their phone close at night. They said even a small noise could make them nervous. Honestly, it freaked me out a bit, but I figured if that's how Casey coped, I could handle it. It didn't seem like a red flag, just something sad they were dealing with. We went on a few dates. Casey was sweet and caring, just a little edgy sometimes, like constantly scanning the room or flinching at footsteps behind them. I thought maybe it was PTSD or just lingering fear from that stalker ordeal. I never pushed. The few weekends we spent together were nice, low-key. Eventually, Casey stayed over at my apartment. That night felt normal, watching movies to talking late into the night. I thought maybe things were getting better for Casey. But then the morning after, everything changed. When I came back to my apartment later that day, I immediately felt it. Something was wrong. At first, I couldn't tell what it was. Nothing was stolen. No wallet, no laptop, no phone. But the place felt off, like someone had been there without permission. The cushions on the couch were flipped upside down. Jars in the fridge were rearranged in a way that made no sense. And the photos on the walls were all crooked. Tiny changes, but they made my skin crawl. I called Casey, hoping maybe they had an explanation. But the calls went straight to voicemail. I tried again, no answer. Then I called the cops and filed a report. The officer who came over listened carefully, took notes, and then gave me a look that made my stomach drop. When I mentioned Casey's history with a stalker, the officer asked a few pointed questions. Then came the chilling part. The officer told me this was the third similar report this month. 3 people, all dating the same person, all saying their homes had been broken into but nothing stolen, just moved around. That person was Casey. I froze. I wanted to believe it was a coincidence. Casey was nice to me, right? But the more I thought about it, the more it didn't add up. The officer explained how the other 2 victims described similar situations. Casey always talked about being scared and paranoid, always sharing these intense stories about their stalker. But after some time, those people's apartments got broken into 2. Nothing taken, just disrupted, like someone was sending a message. I started piecing things together. Casey was always so focused on locking doors and windows when they stayed over, always nervous if someone walked by the building. But then why would Casey keep going back to places that ended up broken into? It was like a puzzle with pieces that didn't fit. I set up a small camera in my apartment, trying to catch whoever was sneaking in. I didn't want to believe Casey could do this, but the paranoia was eating me alive. A few nights later, I stayed at a friend's place to feel safer. The next day, I nervously watched the footage. The moment the door unlocked, my heart nearly stopped. It was Casey. They came in quietly, moved things around deliberately, opened cabinets, sat on my couch like they owned the place. There was no sign of theft, just a strange, unsettling presence messing with my home. I felt sick, betrayed, gaslighted by someone I cared about. I confronted Casey via text, hoping for an explanation or at least an apology. Instead, they blocked me instantly. I went back to the police with the footage, but without physical harm or stolen items, there wasn't much they could do. The officers warned me to be careful, told me to document everything and avoid contact. But I didn't feel safe anymore, anywhere near Casey. What really hit me was when I confided in a close friend who dropped a bombshell. They dated Casey too. Different city, different apartment, but the same story. The stalker passed, the break-in with nothing taken, just a mess made to unsettle. They'd never put it together until I told them what happened to me. It was like Casey had been playing a twisted game, targeting people, making them feel vulnerable and scared, like victims in their own homes. The stalking stories, probably a mask, a way to get sympathy and lower people's guard, so Casey could get close and control them without suspicion. Now looking back, all the signs were there. Casey's constant lock-checking wasn't just paranoia, it was preparation. The nervous glances, the stories about being followed, they were tools to keep people off balance. And when things got too close or too comfortable, Casey would remind them of the danger by invading their space, rearranging their lives, just enough to terrify without crossing a line that would get the cops fully involved. It's terrifying to realize the person who seemed so sweet, so vulnerable, was actually the one manipulating everything behind the scenes. I trusted Casey, opened my home, shared my life. And all along, I was just another player in their game. So, yeah, that's how I went from dating someone who seemed fragile and scared to living in a nightmare where the person you trusted most was the one messing with your head and your home. The worst kind of horror is when the threat isn't some stranger lurking in the shadows, but the person you thought was there to protect you.